Thank you, Piero, and thank you all. I will start by showing you a video of a piece of mine from 2007, which has just been performed in Italy about a month and a half ago. Maybe after I show this video, I will begin to talk a little bit about what it is that I've been doing. The two players in this video are Riccardo Rinaldi and Claudio Sanna. Claudio is the pianist, Riccardo is a bassoon player, but in this particular piece, well, they're both tackling the piano and doing all sorts of other things. This is Inkless Imagination number 3. Pardon un moment. Okay, so I decided to show you this video first because I thought that beginning a conversation about my work as a composer makes more sense if you have heard something. Even though this is one of the many pieces I've written, it's just, I think, a good representation of the kind of work that I've been doing throughout the years. And so I thought that perhaps just by hearing the music and also seeing an example of a live performance, this even a random one, could be a good starting point. So the work that I've been doing, it pretty much exists under, I think, the notion of synesthesia, in the sense that what I've been trying most of the time to do as an artist is to create an experience that is not simply oral, but in fact the use also visual element for, I think, a fuller representation of the image that I have in my mind. And in fact, most of the work that I've been doing, in fact, has been existed in the context of commission coming from mostly the visual art world. My first opera, for example, was commissioned by the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and one of the projects that I toured with, which was the subject of the previous laser presentation, the Orchestra of Futurist Noise Intolerance, was commissioned by the Performa Biennial in New York City, and it's been touring since 2009. So most of the work has been existing, in fact, in the context of this kind of commissioning landscape. And in fact, most of the work lately has been in the realms of installation. So a good example of that is this recent work that I've done starting in 2023, thanks to a year-long residency in Monaco, Monte Carlo. So my idea there, when I was invited, was to create a piece that would make sense in the context of Monaco. And Monaco is famous, I think, worldwide for a couple of things, but I would say primarily, maybe, the car racing competition of Formula One. And so, because I have worked very much inspired by some of the ideas of Italian futurism, like Piero was mentioning before, and the piece that I just played, in fact, is a direct homage of that, kind of in a whimsical, maybe way, was marrying elements of this futurist interest for something that flies, and particularly propeller and humming of motors, which is just what you just heard. Well, I decided in this particular case to kind of amplify that idea in a piece that will also connect with Monaco's interest into car racing, and in particular the Grand Prix of Formula One that happens typically in May, last week of May, every year. So I had a year-long residency, and the piece that I did was commissioned by the Teatro Princess Grass, which is Monaco's national theater, a theater that existed since probably the early 20th century, but then when Princess Grace Kelly became part of the principal family, she wanted to refurbish it entirely to her tasting, given that her, I think, beginning of training before becoming very famous as an actress in Hitchcock movies, etc., was in fact in theater. So she remodeled the theater, redesigned the light fixture, and so on. And the theater itself, available in the summer during the time of the art fair, became the place where I inserted this installation. The installation has a visual component and an audio component. Here I'm just going to show you some of the visuals, maybe starting with these images. So what I ended up doing is using a proscenium theater as basically a gallery space. So I wanted to insert an art object in the theater in a time in which the theater is not in session. And so this is what I ended up doing, so creating this connecting ropes that link the stage, the wooden stage, to elements of the catwalks and the balconies, etc. So this is an example. The rope is, as you can see here, kind of mounted directly on the stage to, at least, for example, visually show in a magnified way how string vibrate. So I don't know how close you have ever observed string from a guitar or a violin vibrating. But if you magnify that for everybody to see, you're going to actually discover a lot of things. So this, what you can see here, is one of the ropes that I just showed, just being plucked, but turning off all the lights of the theater and shining a light along the length of the rope. It's not a digital artifact. This is what you actually would have seen if I were to pluck the string in front of you, and that's because in complete darkness, the pupil tend to open up larger, and then therefore objects moving, especially luminous one, create all sorts of basically blurs. So incidentally, this kind of depiction of movement is really the center of a lot of Italian futurist investigation in 1913, when they were asking themselves how would they represent in a pictorial fashion movement. And so I let you take a look to some of the 1913, 1912 particularly, painting by Giacomo Balla, such as Dinamismo di un cane al guinzaglio, so dynamism of a dog on a leash, or Le mani del violinista, the hands of a violinist. Take a look when you have a moment of these two paintings and see how Giacomo Balla represented movement. This particular installation, called Monaco Mobile, was directly inspired by Giacomo Balla's work in 1917 for Diaghilev. Sergei Diaghilev wanted to work on a piece with Balla, and after a couple of years of thinking about it, Balla ended up creating a spectacle based on Stravinsky's Faux d'Artifice for Rome National Theatre. And Faux d'Artifice is a piece of instrumental music which also was the reason why Diaghilev was interested in Stravinsky's music in the first place and brought it from St. Petersburg to Paris. Was used as a ballet, but in the case of Balla's work, Balla had the idea of cancelling entirely physical presences from the stage, and instead letting shapes and light to dance. So it was a kind of mechanical spectacle where was a ballet with no dancer, essentially, where the scenography itself was dancing. So my idea was to create an homage to that idea. And so, in fact, my installation in the context of a theater uses the sound for the car race collected across a month and a half using sound directly coming from the historical Grand Prix, so motors ranging from the 1930s all the way to the 1980s. The sound of the current hybrid motors which are used for the Formula One Grand Prix, and also the sound collected from the Grand Prix of the electric car, which happens every other year in Monaco as well, but did took place on the year I was in residency there. So a couple of sound examples. I'll play this one more time, where you can see the moving snake of the circuit just being turned on about probably now. There you go. So you can see now some of the ropes and the circuit spinning. So this is a case of installation. I've been doing throughout the year a number of installations made with ropes, and this is just an example of that. This current year, I'm in residency as a fellow for the entire 2006 at the Harrison House, Lou Harrison House in Joshua Tree, California, where I just played a concert using bungee cable to activate in the entire hall at great distances a series of djembe and other percussion instruments. So the idea also is again to create a sound environment in which you have essentially a surround experience, but in this particular case without using loudspeaker, which is something that I've been doing for a while. This is yet another project, a smaller gallery project done in collaboration with Judy Dara in Auckland, New Zealand, where I have ropes that are connected to the four corners of a gallery, and then they are controlled by a device here in the center of the gallery where I'm pulling literally ropes and shaking four different noisemakers in the four corners. So if the viewer is in the center of the gallery, again has a surround sound experience that completely avoid loudspeakers. Another project, just to give you yet another example of a piece that I just recently did also in Monaco, plays with the idea of, in this particular case, working with amplified roulette tables. This one took place inside the casino, and where I worked on an homage to Marcel Duchamp's Obligation pour la Roulette, so the Monte Carlo bond, a piece that Duchamp created in the casino in Monaco in 1924, spending an entire year gambling and testing a mathematical system similar to other mathematical systems to prove that, well, if you cannot completely win at the roulette, perhaps you can float above the zero. So that your tiny loss and your tiny gains in the end kind of allow you to just basically sail safely without losing money in this perennial kind of zero of gain and loss. So the piece was a reflection also over currencies, and so also playing a little bit on the idea of an art market that is dominated, in fact, by this kind of gambling attitude, and at the same time, also Monaco's economy that at some point in a crucial moment of their history switched from a lemon farming economy to, well, the casino. So Monaco, when it lost territory at the end of 1800, I don't pretend you two are terribly familiar with the history of this tiny nation, but I can tell you that at the end of 1800, with a series of referendum whereby some of the citizens from the nearby town decided that because Monaco was charging too much taxes, they rather would go to France, Monaco suddenly lost most of its territory and became the second smallest nation in the world after the Vatican. So what was left for them, because they lose this important farming economy that mostly would basically trade lemons for cash and keeping the principality afloat, they had this brilliant idea of creating a casino. And they tested it a couple of times. The first casino, if you can believe it, was unsuccessful, but then they fine-tuned it and moved the casino from the area of the port, which was not very glamorous, to the hill now called Monte Carlo, and the rest is history. So there is a particular moment in which this tiny nation transitioned from a farming economy to basically a gambling economy, and really up until maybe other ways of reporting the economy came into place, the casino actually supported the principality. And so the piece plays along this idea and stages this transition by reversing the course. So I don't have some of the photographs here to show, but basically the piece also involved using lemons as chips to play on the roulette. Mm-hmm. And so if the game begins playing the chips, ordinary chips for the roulette, then eventually through a process in the course of 20 minutes, 6 player begins to basically bid on certain specific element of the roulette table using actual lemons instead. And the lemons also prepare the piano that is used in the performance here in the salle blanche of the casino. So I wanted to show you, because I mentioned also other elements of my work, and particularly very briefly here, show you the Orchestra of Futurist Noise Intoners, which is another project that I mentioned earlier in this lecture when I was telling you that I got mostly commissioned by visual arts institution instead of musical institutions. So this one is the Orchestra of Futurist Noise Intoners in the Cleveland Museum of Art. I'm conducting it in the center. It's an orchestra of 16 mechanical synthesizer that I rebuilt with Keith Carey in 2009 in the year that several art institutions was celebrating the centennial of the Futurist Manifesto. The preview concert was also could happen in San Francisco because it was a co-commission of the Performance Biennial with SF MoMA. And then subsequently, a month and a half later, we had the premiere of the event in New York City in Town Hall. So this is the first replica of Luigi Russolo's earliest orchestra. It's an orchestra of 16 sound modules in different size. Each box is creating a different noise. And the result I will play you in a second if the Bluetooth device assists me. So, so let's see, I think I should be connected. And so this is an example of the orchestra of Futurist Noise Intoners. The piece I'm about to play is one of the few fragments of Luigi Russolo's music. So you can look at this photo and you can listen to the sound and you can kind of triangulate both. This is Russolo's Risveglio d'una città. It's only a fragment of about 1 minute. Okay, thank you very much. I have a question maybe?